What if everything you've ever been through was for your good? What if everything you've ever been through was for your good? What comes up for you when I ask you that question? What comes up whenever you hear somebody say something like that? What if everything you've ever been through is for your good? I'm going to get into that today. I'm Angela W. Stillwell. I am the founder and CEO of Untapped Strengths, and I work on transforming individuals into the top 1% of leaders and teams into powerhouses. And I do that using brain science. And that's what's behind that question is brain science. What if everything you have ever been through is for your good? This morning, I was listening to Myron Golden. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or if you've ever listened to him speak. He is a phenomenal speaker. He's a phenomenal entrepreneur. He's had tremendous success, and that's not where he started. He was born in Tampa in a segregated hospital, and he found out that he had polio. And what ended up happening, he ended up living in, having to wear orthopedic shoes and had to wear braces on his legs. And as a teenager, had to go into the hospital for over 30 days to have one of his legs stretched because one of his legs was 2 inches shorter than the other. And, he wasn't as athletic as other kids, obviously, because he had a leg that was 2 inches shorter. So he was very good at observing, right? He was very good at observing and paying attention to things that were going on around him. Now, after his leg was stretched and he no longer had to wear the special shoes and that sort of thing, he became much more like other kids. He was still wearing leg braces, though. But he thought of himself as being extremely odd. And, all of us kids probably think that we're all odd. And none of us know that anyone else is thinking that at the time, right? So he was thinking of himself as being rather odd because he couldn't play the games. He couldn't do all of the things that those kids were doing. And then he was listening to someone talk about how things that have happened in our past are actually for our good because they've made us into the people that we are. How do we get to use that for our good and for the good of the people that we serve, whether that's in our family or our business or community, whatever that looks like, right? And I loved hearing Myron talk about this because it's something that once I figured that out in my own life, it took away any option for blame, shame, or guilt. Okay. There's no reason for me to feel guilty. There's no reason for me to feel shame. There's no reason for me to want to blame anyone else because all of those things take away my power. And when you do those things, it takes away your power. And here's what the top 1% leaders in the world, and I would say that Myron is definitely one of the top 1% leaders because this is a man who he knows where he's going. He knows what his focus is. He understands people. He started out as an evangelist. He traveled from churches and spoke at different churches. And he's always had this faith that things were going to be good, right? He realized that things were working in his favor as long as he lived in a place of faith and allowing, right? So it's not about not having dreams. It's not about not having goals. It's not about not having aspirations. Those are all things that are put on our hearts and we get to live into those. What it is about is knowing that any difficulty that you've been through in life, any difficulty, and you guys, I can attest to this. I've been through, Myron like I said, he had polio as a kid and he had one leg that was shorter than the other. And he went through extreme poverty for a while and he's been through a lot in order to get to the level of success that he is today. And all of those things gave him the knowledge, the energy, the focus to get to where he is today. And I figured that out for myself years ago. And for a while I stood on it and had it as like this armor around me that didn't allow people in. I kept it as this, I've been through all this pain, so I'm not letting any more pain in. So I'm going to keep it up as a wall. I'm going to keep it up as armor around me so that people can't get in. And what I realized was that keeping up that wall of armor was doing nothing except keeping people out. Bad stuff was still getting in, right? I still went through pain. I still went through shifts. I still went through all the things that we all go through, even though I had all of these fortified walls put up. I still went through all of the emotions. Once I figured out, though, that everything, regardless of how bad it is, and listen, there are plenty of things in my life that I'd never want to live through again. I promise you, there are a lot of things in my life. And if you've listened to me talk over the years, if you've ever heard me speak on stage, or if you've been through any of my coaching courses or training courses, or if you've had me in as a consultant or a speaker or anything like that, if you've ever heard me speak, I tell my story. I tell the story of the dysfunction. I tell the story of the tragic loss of my mom. I tell the story of my divorce. I tell these stories because what I realized as I went through this process is that all of those things made me who I am today. And by embracing those things and understanding that not that those happened to me because I was destined to have them happen to me. That's not what I'm saying. There's like this fine line around all of this, right? There are things that happen in life that just happen. And the ones that happen to me, I am particularly gifted to deal with. The things that happen to you, you are particularly gifted to deal with. Now, have you figured out how to deal with them and use those things in your favor? When you learn to do that, that's when you use them as stepping stones. They become foundational. They become launch pads to where you want to go next. Okay. And that's no small game. That's no easy task. That takes a lot of really listening into what's happening in here. Because listen, those things that happened in the past, you guys hear me say this frequently, those things that happened in the past are driving what's happening today. They're driving what's happening in the future. Unless we make shifts around how we think about them right now. It takes time to make the shift stick, right? It takes time to make the shift stick, because writing a new neural pathway or erasing an old neural pathway that's been paved over and paved over and paved over and paved over, because that's what our brain does, that takes time. And as a top 1% leader, you figure out how to get that done. That's one of the big things that I do with my clients. Yes, I help them build businesses. Yes, I help them build departments. Yes, I help them build powerhouse teams. Yes, I help people get to their dreams. Yes, I help people achieve those things. And the way that we do it is by understanding what the dream is and understanding how the past is impacting the present and could impact the future. And then shifting how we perceive it. What is the meaning that we put around situations? What is the meaning that we put on ourselves? What are we saying about ourselves? What are we saying about others? Right? So my question for you again, just like I said at the very beginning, what if everything that happened to you in life up to this point, and going forward, by the way, this isn't a one and done thing. What if everything that happened to you up to this point was for your good? What would that look like? What would that mean for you? You know, my mom was tragically taken. And I went through a program several years ago. And one of the things that we talked about constantly was 100% responsibility 100% of the time, that we're responsible for the things happening in our life. And it's not that we're responsible for the things that happen to us, and there are things that are happening to us. And while they're happening to us, they're also happening for us. Okay. And when we were having this discussion around 100% responsibility 100% of the time, being responsible for everything happening around us, then I kept saying, I get it, I hear it, and with this loss of my mom, there's zero way that I was responsible for that. There's zero way that I was responsible for that. And I wasn't responsible for that. There's no reason for me to take on that blame, guilt, or shame around that. What I am responsible for is how I take that event in my life and then use that to the betterment of my life and the life of my family, the life of my friends, the lives of my clients, the community around me. That I am 100% responsible for. So what is it that you get to show up in a way that you've never shown up before? What is it that you get to say, you know what? Yes, that was really crappy, and all kinds of other words, the things that happened. And here's what I've learned from it. Here's who I get to be as a result of it. Maybe it's a relationship that was really, really bad. Maybe, I've been through a divorce, and, I don't want to go through that again by any stretch of the imagination. What do I get to take from that so that the rest of my life doesn't look like what caused that? So it's taking ownership, it's taking responsibility and saying, okay, yes, these things did happen, and I can take this and then go forward. I'm going to read this quote again. It sits here. And so when I'm doing my lives with you guys, it's right out of the corner of my eye. And it's James Clear's quote from Atomic Habits. And I've read the book. I love the book. And this quote is the one that, man, it fuels me. The quote is, your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. Are you repeating what has happened to you in the past? Are you repeating what has happened to you in the past? Understand something. The past, it doesn't exist anymore. You can't touch it. You can't smell it. You can't feel it. It can't stand beside you, in front of you, anywhere around you. It only exists in your head. So what part of that event and your past that you're still clinging to, that's impacting everything that you do right now, what part of that are you wanting to shift so that you can become everything you're meant to become? When are you going to say yes to your purpose? When are you going to say yes to your future? When are you going to say yes to knowing that everything that's happened for your good? I want to know what comes up for you when I say that. You can put it in the chat. You can send me a DM. What comes up for you when you hear someone say something like that? Listen in, really hear what you're saying to yourself, what's the meaning you're putting to that, because that is a huge clue in your breakthrough to your next level. Just like it was a huge clue for mine. What I realized was that I was still putting some blame and shame and guilt back there. Yeah, and I was doing all of that, blame, shame, and guilt. All three different things, all three are big ways of giving our power away. So what is it for you? What is it that you're ready to say, this is no longer my truth. I want my truth to be what? What do you want your truth to be? I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. If you're interested in hopping on the phone and talking about some of the things that have been impacting you, I'd love to chat with you. You can find me. If you look on the screen just below my name, you'll see my Linktree link and all of my different things, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all of them are on there. So you can find me, whatever is your favorite platform, and you can send me a DM and I can get you a link and we can schedule a call and chat. I'd love to have that conversation with you. What are your goals? How might your past impact your future? How might you use that as fuel to achieve whatever that next goal is for you, whatever that dream is for you, whatever that vision is for you that you have yet to go after? What is it in your heart of hearts? What is it that when you really get in there and you think, man, there is something that I have not yet done, and I know that this is part of who I am and part of my purpose and part of what I get to do while I'm on the face of the earth. And I don't want to miss my chance to do that. What is that for you? Put it in the comments, send me a message. Let's get scheduled and just have a chat. Just have a conversation. What is it that you're wanting to shift? I love connecting with new people and just hearing what their goals are. So I'd love to hear from you. And with that, we're wrapping up this week's weekly live show with Angela W. Stillwell. I look forward to chatting with some of you going forward. And I can't wait to read your comments and your DMs around what came up for you with what if everything that's happened to you was for your good. All right. See you soon.